Friends of Fivestar Dehydration. At the beginning of May 2003, a revolutionary change took place in the dehydration industry of India. And since then, business partners from all around the world collaborated with Fivestar Dehydration. Thank you for making our dreams into a reality. You are by far our best associates globally.
So here is where innovation took place for a revolutionary beginning.
Fivestar Dehydration, the revolutionary industry since 2003. We have made exceptional maids from the year till today. And that has been our parenting company, which has focused us more and expanded over the ranges of peanut butter with our United Foods, with our condiment plants and many other things. But yet not to say, dehydrated onions, garlic and our other vegetables are our key thing. This is the best thing we do and we are really proud of that. We are the first company to be the BRC certified grade A company in this sector. We are the first company who bought a sorting machine into this industry, which nobody even thought of it. So that's why we say, when we say about Fivestar Dehydration, it's a company which brings revolution to this industry and makes the best thing for the international clients. Our sales is divided into 38 countries over the globe, and we are really happy to expand it more and more with many more people and many more partners to welcome with us on the table. It is a family-owned business, but yes, it is a family of 400 people, and we are really proud of that. And I am very proud of myself being the front person of this company.
This is to be the oldest and largest unit of Fivestar. It occupies 5 imperial dryers with production capacity of 30 MT per day. In addition, Fivestar holds 3 dryers in Unit 2, established in 2015 for 100% atomization. The processing begins with raw onion peeling and washing it several times before being prepared for the production line. Fresh vegetables are washed 3 times in chlorine water prior to production. While the washing process is pursuing, it is also peeled 2 times on the skin, removing peelers. With the best part of imported and fully automatic technology, the drying process of onions begins. The process for dehydration is an incredible art. With Fivestar, the product is sliced by imported machines and is automatically placed on the belts of the imperial dryers. Thereafter, the product moves into the hot air oven to ensure minimal moisture. Once that is done, it is transferred to the primary cleaning area. Food is a creation of nature and needs to be treated in the most hygienic way, keeping the hygiene and cleaning in the Fivestar product. The cleaning, sorting process is divided into 2 stages for cleaning. The primary stage involves cold drying, blanching, hand selection, automatic machine selection, followed by magnet and metal detection. Here is where the product is qualified as semi-finished. Once the semi-finished goods are ready, they are sent to stocking to Fivestar's in-house cold storage. In addition, they move to the Fivestar Export Processing House as requested by the production heads to complete the secondary cleaning and to execute dispatch plan. Export Processing House is an infrastructure established by engineers and associates of food to ensure the best hygiene work and no errors in the process of dehydration. Products arriving from cold storage are first guaranteed to verify magnets, followed by reblanching, high-sense automatic sorting, and table sorting of Class A executives. The final stage is the verification of high-density magnets, followed by the step magnets and vibrating tunnel in the final package. Fivestar maintains a working system to even check the product while filling is in process, and this is how we end with the new start. Fivestar Dehydration was the first company to be registered as a BRC certificate unit throughout the dehydration industry of Gujarat, India. It is also a kosher, halal, ISO, FSSM, and HACCP certified organization and part of the IFT, ISC, APEDA, US FDA. We maintain our best ability to ensure that our farm-to-table vision is perfect.